everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Loki Season 2, Episode 3, 1893. In this episode, Loki and Mobius go hunt everyone's favorite cartoon clock in order to try to save the TBA. This show stars Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Gugu Mbatha-Raw as Ravonna Renslayer, Sophia DiMartino as Sylvie, Owen Wilson as Mobius, Tara Strong as Ms. Minutes, Eugene Cordero as Casey, Ki-Hugh Kwan as Obi, and Wumnu Masuka as Hunter B-15. So this first part of the review will be spoiler free. So if you haven't seen the episode, don't you worry about that. I won't be revealing any of the secrets. I will say this was an interesting episode tonally. I feel like the tone and the mood of the episode was kind of all over the place. I think it should feel like the most important one so far because there's definitely a lot of big stuff that's happening. There's some big reveals, some doors are opened, and we have some really interesting confrontations. But I feel like the episode didn't know if it wanted to be like funny, lighthearted, or it wanted to be really like serious and like bring a lot of this information to the forefront. The performances continue to be amazing. I have to call out Owen Wilson. He's just so charismatic in his portrayal of Mobius. He just does everything in like the most sincere way. Like it really feels very sincere. There's a few reaction shots of him just like being amazed by the stuff that they're kind of seeing in the world, and I was like, wow, like dude, just he just knows how to do it. I mean, I think we're very lucky that Owen Wilson is part of this show. Um, as far as the episode itself, I continue to really enjoy the look of this world. It feels every set and location feels very tactile. Feel especially when you're at the TVA, like a lot of it feels very practical. Even from like when we see they're in this big laboratory, right, and there's like a storm happening outside because of all the time fluctuations that are happening. Like you feel that, like you feel like you're really there. Um, and then even when we go to the other, when we go to 1893, as the name of the episode suggests, um, the sets are just amazing. Very like so much attention to detail here. I think the story itself has definitely moved forward, but the pace continues to be. I'm still having a little bit of pacing issues as we did on the last episode. Also, feels like some characters are they're not really acting like themselves every once in a while, and I don't know if that's just to kind of help the story move along. Um, so there's a few of those little things that are still kind of remain. Like I don't know. I feel like this show should have all that stuff resolved by now, and they don't, and they just like they still have. It's almost as if they're still finding their way. I some to me it feels like maybe there were some issues with the editing trying to put this story together. I don't know if the plan changed. I don't know if the story changed, or maybe it's just the disconnect that's making it feel like there was something missing, some change that happened in the story. I know I saw a few people talk about last episode. Maybe there was a scene or two that was cut, but this was a pretty long episode. I mean, it has a runtime on Disney Plus of 55 minutes. So chop out the if you chop out the credits, that's about 5 minutes less. So like 50 minutes is still a pretty lengthy episode. Um, but yeah, I think it's still very enjoyable. I think Loki continues to be one of the more just solidly just consistent series that Marvel has, and I hope that they're not poking around too much with some of the stuff because I feel like they had a really good thing going and they've been having. I hope that this isn't being changed because of larger changes to the story, right? I feel like this is the one show that I like just kind of leave it alone. You can explain away anything that happens by the TVA being the TVA, and just like this can be a very insular show, just be very isolated from the bigger Marvel Cinematic Universe. Which they've talked about the TV division. We have another video where we talk about all the the TV division revamping that they're doing, and some shows getting kind of restarted or redone. So I hope Loki is not suffering from some of those issues behind the scenes. But the performances that are there, like, they're fantastic. Um, I won't go too much into the other stuff because that might lead to a little bit of spoilers. But highly recommend this one. So if you haven't seen the show, come back. We'll have a longer version of this video with spoilers that you can check out as well. And I'll have a theory that I came away with after watching this full episode. So I'm gonna get into spoilers now. If you haven't seen the episode, thanks for watching. Come back. Um, wow, let's kind of go through beat by beat on these larger things. Which I will say, compared to some of the other episodes, not a lot of stuff actually happened. There's a lot of talking and a lot of conversations that they're trying to build out this world. So of course, the biggest thing is that, as we've seen in the trailers, we meet Victor Timely, who is portrayed by Jonathan Majors. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff and personal issues that are going on outside the show with Majors, so I won't delve into any of that. I'm just going to talk about his performance in this episode itself. Um, but let's kind of go through in order. So, first of all, a real cool detail is that um, the Marvel fanfare, as the Marvel titles are opening up, it's kind of like in this old piano style, like like at the saloon or whatever, like old school piano music. Like they redid the Marvel fanfare music, which is really cool. So we're in Chicago in 1868. First of all, where Renslayer meets Miss Minutes in the Sacred Timeline. They drop off a pack for a young Victor Timely, which happens to be the TVA handbook. So this is all because He Who Remains has laid out a plan, I guess, in case he was killed, which we know that he was. So this is all to kind of put having maybe his replacement in one of his variants take his place, and he's chosen Victor Timely, um, which is interesting that it's somebody from the sacred timeline. Maybe he ends up being the same. At this point, we don't know. We assume that he's a variant of He Who Remains, but because time is weird, and especially in this kind of show, like, we don't know, right? We don't know that if this Victor Timely ends up being. Just think it's interesting that he's in the sacred timeline. Um, so after that, at the TVA, they all plan to go meet Ms. Minutes, right? I think they're looking for her. Mobius and the gang, they're still trying to fix everything that's going on at the TVA. This is where I talked about a little bit of like how I love that big laboratory that they're in, the set. Like whenever we see the timeline being shaken up outside, those panels that are protecting everything, they all feel very real. Like it feels very practical, feels like the real sets, which I really enjoy. So then we see Mobius and Loki, which I just do on my notes. I just write M&L. In 1983, Chicago at the World Fair, they go to the first place, but they don't find anything because Ramona was only there really quickly to drop off the book. She's also left that spot in the timeline. But yeah, they go to the World Fair, which this is where Owen Wilson really shines. As they're looking for clues and everything. I love that the detail of Mobius wanting to stop by and get snacks at every little thing at the fair. I think he's the one that, although he doesn't admit it, wants to know more about. Maybe he just wants to live a regular life, but he knows that he has all this responsibility, right? Um, so I think that's a really interesting character trait of Mobius, and of course, Owen Wilson's portrayal of it, just so sincere. Like you could tell he really is enjoying those peanuts. There's a really nice detail that they have a diorama of Asgard. So they have a little statue of Odin, Thor, and then also Balder the Great, the Brave, Balder the Brave. Um, and not Loki. So Loki sees that. Tom Hiddleston is just so good because you could tell at some point he was sad because that was his father and his brother that he hadn't seen. So um, then we get to see Mobius and Loki and Renslayer. They all go to Victor Timely's demonstration of his artifact, which great costuming, great sets as I mentioned. Um, But we do get a reveal that although Timely does have all these things, all these ideas in his head, he's a bit of a con man, and he's just trying to, I guess, make enough money. He realizes that the time he lives in doesn't have the technology, almost kind of like Howard Stark did, where he knew that he had the vision for the element that would eventually help Tony with his illness, but he didn't have the access to the technology. So I think very similarly, Victor Timely doesn't have access to the technology to have all his ideas come to fruition. Sylvie shows up to kill Victor Timely, where they have a big fight. Although this is where I think some of the pacing is weird because it's all a bit of a runaround caper. Like, if there's like even the music changes to like this very, it's a very dramatic tone, like in a shift in tone, like it's very whimsical, the music of like this, like, oh, it's a big chase or whatever, and like all these people are chasing Victor Timely and only Loki can help him out. But Sylvie and Loki kind of go head to head. This is where we see the Ms. Minutes kaiju thing, so they can get away. Timely and Renslayer end up escaping to his lab, and we see them get on a boat. They're gonna go to his lab to pick up one of his inventions before going into the TVA. And this is interesting because I think Timely and Renslayer were having a bit of a connection, and I'll talk more about their relationship because I have a theory at the end of the video that I want to go over. Um, but Miss Minutes, of course, like she's been showing signs of jealousy about their relationship, and we find out later on why that is. So they leave Renslayer behind, and they go to the Timely and Ms. Minutes go to his lab, and that's where Ms. Minutes like continues. She's being real weird, right? One quick thing I did here was she mentions the multiversal war, the founding of the TVA, like all that stuff, but she reveals that her main thing is that although she has been he who remains his um, companion for all this time, she wants a body. She wants to be a real a being, not just this artificial intelligence that can be controlled with the with the little tempats and all that. I was getting some real swim fan vibes. If you watched that movie, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Of course, Ravonna comes back, Renslayer comes back, and confronts both of them. And she wants to take Victor Timely with her, but then Mobius and Loki finally show up. Sylvie shows up, everyone blows away. So like it was just like people showing up out of nowhere. Like it was very very much like, okay, we need everyone back in the same place. Um, and this is another place where Jonathan Majors, like, he's been doing this great performance, I think, overall, um, throughout the episode, and he really shows that he doesn't want to die, and this is how he convinces Sylvie that he doesn't want to die. He wants to help Mobius and Loki, and he wants to live, and he wants to bring all these ideas to fruition. Of course, Sylvie knows that who he really is, and that's where she has the conflict. But yeah, they end up convincing Sylvie to let them go. Mobius and Loki and Victor Timely go to the TVA. Sylvie stays behind to kick Renslayer pretty much into the end of time. She doesn't kill her because Renslayer is the one person that pulled Sylvie out of there, out of where, like, she's the one that was chasing her. She's the one that should know her Nexus event. They made it very clear in the beginning in the recap that that was one of the reasons that these two were at odds. So I think we're gonna see that. I think we're gonna learn what Sylvie's Nexus event is gonna be or was in this season. But yeah, she's at the end of time. Now this is where it gets very interesting because Ravona's at the end of time. They see, and she brings up Miss Minutes, and Miss Minutes, kind of talks about how you shouldn't make an enemy of somebody that knows all your secrets. Now, all this show, and there's all the throughout the whole episode. So here's my theory. Here's what I'm thinking after watching this episode. Throughout this whole episode, Renslayer and Timely had this connection, and obviously, Renslayer cares about bringing order to the chaos, which was also something that mirrors with the explanation that Timely went, that his machine would bring order to the chaos, and then from there comes power. So when Miss Minutes mentions that she knows all of He Who Remains secrets, I think one of those secrets is that Ravonna Renslayer is also a Kang variant. Now, I don't have anything to go based off of this other than everything that the show's kind of. This is my interpretation of the episode. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that theory. But I think it would make a little bit of sense of like, that's why she's so power hungry. She's all about order. Maybe she doesn't have the same ideas because we know that the variants can be a little bit different, right? Loki and Sylvie are very different. We know that they can be different genders as well. So yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of something that came to mind. Hopefully, others that do this stuff as well, like they analyze this stuff, if they echo that sentiment, I'll know that I was onto something. So yeah, overall fun episode. Um, even with all the issues, I really enjoyed what happened this episode. So if you have seen this episode, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. Let me know what you think about my theory. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the next few episodes of the Loki show. We only have 3 episodes left. I can't believe we're already halfway through this show. So, as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.